The Holocaust was one of the darkest chapters in human history, a time when millions were stripped of their most basic rights: the right to life, dignity, and freedom. Among the survivors was Eva Kor, a woman who endured unimaginable horrors at Auschwitz but chose a path that shocked many: forgiveness. Eva Kor believed that with the memories of her past comes the responsibility to educate future generations about the rights of equality and forgiveness, to ensure that history is never forgotten. Eva Kor, a Holocaust survivor, made a lasting, profound impact on the United States by embracing her responsibilities as an advocate for human rights, equality, and the idea that forgiveness is a fundamental choice in empowering individuals to overcome injustices in society. Overall, Eva Kor forever changed how societies grapple with discrimination by leading a life of inspiring acts of education and empathy.
After World War I ended in 1918, Europe was unstable. Many countries struggled with poverty, debt, and political instability. People were desperate for strong leaders that would restore the nation, which allowed corrupt leaders to arise like Adolf Hitler in Germany. Hitler and his ideology spread rapidly. He blamed Jewish people for Germany's problems and spread false propaganda to turn the public against them. As Nazi power grew, hatred towards Jewish people began to spread across Europe, leading to violence and forced segregation. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws took away Jewish rights, banning them from many jobs and public places. Eva Moses Kor was one of the individuals affected by this rising anti-Semitism. She was born on January 31st, 1934, in a small village in Romania to Alexander and Jeffa Moses. She had two older sisters, Edith and Alice, and a twin sister, Miriam. The Moses family lived a simple life as farmers, and Eva and Miriam spent their childhood helping on the farm. By 1944, their family was forced into the Seahide ghetto before being transferred to Auschwitz, where Eva and Miriam were separated from their family and subjected to inhumane medical experiments by Dr. Joseph Mengele. After enduring Dr. Joseph Mengele's inhumane experiments and the horrors of Auschwitz, Eva and Miriam were liberated by Soviet forces on January 27, 1945.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May. We may allow ourselves a brief period of rejoicing.
They returned to Romania, and in 1950, seeking a fresh start, they immigrated to Israel. Eva served in the Israeli Army Engineering Corps, and during this time, she met Michael Kor, another Holocaust survivor. They married and relocated to Terre Haute, Indiana. In Terre Haute, they raised their two children. In 1993, Miriam passed away from cancer that was tied to the injections she received at Auschwitz. All of Eva's anger and grief led her to make an astonishing decision that would forever define her legacy. In 1995, during a visit to Auschwitz to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the camp's liberation, she announced that she had chosen to forgive the Nazis. She signed a declaration of amnesty, officially forgiving all Holocaust perpetrators and Nazi sympathizers, and left the document at the former death camp.
I didn't know how to send a Nazi. How about a letter of forgiveness? A Auschwitz survivor gives him a letter of forgiveness to a Nazi doctor. But what I discovered for myself was life-changing. I discovered that I had the power to forgive.
Kor felt that forgiveness gave her the means to liberate herself from the horrors of the past. From that moment on, Kor believed it was her responsibility to spread her message of forgiveness.
Forgiveness is nothing more and nothing less, but an act of self-healing, an act of self-empowerment. Pain was lifted from my shoulder, that I was no longer a victim of Auschwitz, that I was no longer a prisoner of my tragic past.
Eva's advocacy did not stop at forgiveness. She fought for people's fundamental human rights, the very rights that the Holocaust took away from her and millions of others. She took the duty to educate all Holocaust survivors about their rights and responsibilities. As a result, in 1995, she founded the Candles, Children's of Auschwitz Nazi Deadly Lab Experiment Survivors, Museum, and Education Center. Eva believed that through this organization she would be able to track down other Mengele twins who suffered through the experiments, while educating Americans about the horrors of the Holocaust. Annually, she would lead a group of more than 100 people back to Auschwitz to learn about the horrors endured there. She shared her personal experience as a survivor, teaching others about the power of resilience and strength. She used these tours to emphasize lessons of history and that it's people's responsibility to ensure that these atrocities and violations of human rights are never forgotten.
When Eva Kor began to publicly share her story in 1978, she quickly became a sought-after speaker, specifically in schools, where she educated children and adults about the importance of forgiveness, strong leadership, resilience, and the dangers of discrimination. She believed this was her responsibility as a survivor. She brought attention to the human rights violations of the Holocaust and her path to forgiveness through her public speaking and her founding of Candles. Candles has overall drawn thousands of visitors from all over the world. Instead of allowing hatred to define her life, Eva Kor chose forgiveness and urged others to consider the same. Kor has inspired others to forgive, hence sparking an international debate about the right to forgive. Her story continues to remind people to stand up against discrimination and embrace forgiveness as a way of healing. In addition to advocating for human rights, she taught people that their right to forgive was extraordinary, and no one could take that away. Her work continues to shape how people understand the Holocaust today. Eva Kor's son, Alex Kor, is determined to continue his mother's legacy. He ensures that Candles continues to educate future generations about the Holocaust and the dangers of hatred.
How do you think Eva Kor's legacy has impacted the globe today as she was an advocate for human rights and forgiveness?
Well, I'd like to think that my mom's voice, what you're doing, what other high school students are doing around the world, that they'll remember my mom and that her passion for hope, healing, humanity, and forgiveness will be something that people of all ages are aware of, and that if they're confronted with a difficult situation in their life, that they, instead of trying to get revenge on somebody, they'll think of, well, maybe the better thing to do, the more difficult thing to do, but the better thing to do would be to forgive Johnny for doing this to me or whatever. So I think, I hope that my mom and perhaps other survivors that have done positive things in their lives, that their legacy will continue to live on through the eyes and hearts of kids your age.
Eva Kor's work throughout her lifetime emphasized the fundamental right of every person to live free from discrimination. Kor's impact on history is profound, as she transformed her suffering into a message of equality, forgiveness, and human rights. As a Holocaust survivor, she embraced her responsibility to educate others, ensuring that the future generations learn from the past. Eva Kor had her rights taken away from her, and yet she used her experiences to teach others about their rights. Kor's controversial choice to forgive taught many that forgiveness is a right that can lead to empowerment. Overall, Eva Kor fully embraced her responsibility as an advocate for human rights and forgiveness by dedicating her life to educating and influencing people across the globe.